Okay. Cool. Let's just check this is okay. Some. Wait for anyone to join. Just checking this. Cool. Okay, we're live. Good, 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 good. Well, first, can I say, sorry if you're expecting me to go live on Monday night. You haven't gone crazy. This is, in fact, Sunday afternoon. It's an absolutely beautiful day in sunny Scotland, and I've got this tea. You should check this tea out, right? It's sort of what is it? Lemon, ginger, and manuka honey. So it's a pucka tea in a Titanfall 2 tin mug. So things could not be better right now. Yeah. Anyway, to explain why I've come on live today rather than tomorrow night. I had a feeling that tomorrow I'm going to be working late on a problem at work. So whether that's at work or at home, I don't know. But I had quite a busy day, quite a busy weekend there, just trying to catch up on things we've got to do, and really enjoying it. It's going great. But I've got a feeling it might run on late tomorrow, and I wouldn't want anyone to be disappointed. So I'm sticking to my commitment, and I'm going live right now. So it's definitely something for people to view. So, hey, it's a bit more informal, but next time I promise I'll wear a shirt. We'll have a good time. Going to just talk about what I've been learning this week. It's been a really busy week. I've been working a lot on Objective-C, a lot in Swift, and a lot of projects that combine both those at the same time. Writing a lot of unit tests and trying to do things in a more test-driven development way, TDD, as an abbreviation. I've also been planning some of the stuff I'm going to talk about. I've set up a Udemy teaching account, and I'm going to start working towards launching a course on there so that I can teach people sort of from the ground up. I think a lot of the coding courses aren't very interesting and not very funny. And I think definitely it's got to be fun, right? So I'm going to probably put something out there eventually, but in the meantime, I'm going to keep blogging what I've been doing. Someone's come on, cool. Hey. So I'm just going to get started today and get straight to the code. Let's go down here. So basically, what I've been working on is I've been doing the Objective-C IO books, and the one that I'm working on just now is Functional Swift. And the whole kind of idea with Functional Swift is that your types that you're used to working with, like strings, integers, booleans, and things, functions are in essence their own type. So you can pass them around a lot, and you can return functions from functions. And the funny thing about it is that learning that stuff, it can be quite detached. It can be quite dry. And so one of the things that I've done, I used to be a school teacher, and one of the things that I'd used to do was come up with a narrative, something that made it that you could learn what you were trying to learn, but it was fun, and it had a kind of funny story that you just couldn't forget. And so I just kind of went off on a tangent last week in the live stream, and I wasn't very prepared. Still am very prepared because the whole idea is to practice live, but that idea was to create a kind of dating app where you could, rate yourself for what you thought you were, and people would then respond with what they actually thought you were. So apparently this exists. Some of the guys at work were talking about it. I don't use dating apps. I've been married for a long time, and I was never very good at dating anyway. So it's not really my forte, but it's just a kind of funny story to kind of keep it interesting. And this is what I've done. I've just kind of went off on a crazy tangent, and it's helped me remember things. So the whole idea for this, what I'm going to do today, is to try and talk about how can I make functional Swift actually useful. All right. I know I've been talking quite a bit at the start here, but most of the stuff that we use or learn as programmers has to be immediately useful. Otherwise, you forget it because you're trying to remember so much stuff. And I don't know about you, but I can barely remember what I wrote sometimes a couple of hours ago. because I'm just trying to work through this problem, and I can't remember everything, so I need to just kind of. It's like playing Silent Hill. You're kind of always in a bit of fog, and you kind of have to trace your steps back. So I've kind of come up with this story here, basically. So we're just going to get started. I think I'm going to call, if you've been following the blog, I think I'm going to call it, I don't know, some iOS dating app. I thought about maybe making it, a bit more generic, but it seems more fun. So what was I going to call it again? Datios, we'll call it this. Right, this seemed to be quite funny because one of the guys at work calls it EOS, and it's actually iOS. I thought, let's just call it the Datios app. So just picture some really minimalist icon. And of course, we're not actually making a real app just now. It's too complex to do that in one go, so we're just going to kind of pretend we have one. So this is my playground. Might just fire myself over to the right hand side. Cool. And just going to get started. So I've got some prepped code a little bit this week. I'm just going to get started here. So let's imagine, right? Let's imagine that we are writing this dating app, and the idea is that users can send up their rating for themselves. Oops, can't spell. And then community responds with actual rating. But what I thought would be quite funny, seeing as we're iOS developers, I thought maybe we could have a kind of micro transaction bonus feature, which allows you to change the rating that the community did if you've paid, right? So if you've paid, right? So totally ethical programming right now, definitely. It's just a funny thing, right? So Datios, this is only for iOS. We don't want any Android or web devs at all. Just iOS. It's funny. I actually opened up my computer and I noticed that someone had been messing with my playgrounds. I don't know if someone's typed that at work or it's one of my kids that's done it. So this is why it's a bit different. I had it all prepped. But anyway, there you go. So here we go. So this is what we're going to do today. We're just going to make this pretend dating app. So let's imagine we're doing that. Now the usual way you'd do it is you'd write a function and it would send up the rating. Another function would handle the rating from the online community and it would send down some result and we would output it. But the idea is that we're kind of trying to describe types. We're trying to describe functions. Functions are types, I suppose, and that's kind of the spirit of functional programming. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create our own thing. So let's just start with important foundation. Excuse the noise here. It's my kids are doing all sorts downstairs, watching The Voice. I think it's chaos in my house, so you're just going to have to bear with me. So we're going to create a type, and we're going to call this user attribute result. Right. So this is going to be a type that we can pass around. Right. Now a user this is going to describe what comes down. So I'll create my Datios profile. I rate myself. I'm a 7 out of 10 for intellect. Maybe that's what iOS developers care about. I don't know. It's going to go up. It's going to get rated, and it's going to come down. So the actual result here is going to be this, right? So our result is going to be, we'll describe it as a function that takes an int. So we're giving it an int, right? And it's going to return an int. So just to show here, I'll rate myself a 7 ? And community will return a 2 out of 10. Right, I don't know. We'll see if that one, if that's what actually happens. I have no idea if I'd be rated more than a 7. I doubt it. I'll make it 5. Just I'm not a looker. Let's put it that way, right? Okay, so sip of tea. Apologies if it's extremely noisy. So, right. Let's start with where I went wrong last week, which is creating the closure that we're going to pass in here. So let's imagine we have a closure called go online update result, and update result, and update result. Now this closure here, this is like a kind of function we're going to use. This is going to be of type user attribute result. Okay, so what we have to do is describe it now. Now what's it's expecting? It's expecting an int to go in. Int. Actually, that's wrong. Let's. Oh yeah, we have to do it like this. In. Okay. I'll call this rating. Cool. I don't know if that's actually. I don't know why this is here. I have no idea why that's there. Sorry. Okay. So what we're doing here is we're creating this function. This function is going to take an int, and it's going to return an int because it's expecting this here. This is going to return this function here, right? So rated attribute, and it's going to be some connect to the internet and the pass in a URL and a rating. Okay, so if you've worked with every app you write is going to connect to the web at some point. So for that we're going to use good old URL session. So let's create a URL. So let's say API URL, right? Now this isn't a real API, so I wouldn't bother trying. Let's just, I don't know, date eos app.com /API /v 2.5 because we're going to give our API version / user rating, give it some stuff, right? Okay. Alright. Okay, cool. So that's going to be our API call. Okay, and we would imagine that once we connect to that, it would post that up and do something with it, right? So, cool. So let's create some function. Let's connect to web with URL. URL is going to be of type string for convenience. And we'll pass it with, here we go. So this is going to be my rating that I'm going to pass up. So the user is going to say with desired user rating. We'll call it rating. Type int. All right. Was this returning anything? Yeah, it's going to turn an int. Okay. So this is going to go up. It's going to connect to the API, and we're going to send up our 5, and we'll hope for more than 5 come back down. Okay. So let's change the. Let's oops. Okay. Okay. So let's format the URL. So formatted URL. Oops. Formatted URL equals URL. Let's do. Can I do this? Why did they stop that? That's annoying. Do you have to memorize anything anymore? String. There we go. API URL. So in iOS, if you're going to be working with a URL, you can't just use a string. You have to actually use a URL. And now we have to work with URL session. So this is something else I did this week as well. I haven't really used a lot of the ins and outs of URL session. Some of the guys at work were much more informed about this, giving a couple of articles to read. It was interesting. But basically the general consensus is to use the new. Why is this not predicting? Okay. Oh, seems to be having a struggle here. Data task shared. Oh, wait. What is it? I'm live just now.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Let's do it, maybe.
Let's do a data task. There we go. Yeah. Cool. So we're going to pass in our URL here. If I spelled that wrong. Oh my gosh. Wow. Formatted. Cool. Cool. So, yo, that's my wife coming in now. So basically, we want a completion handler because we don't know how long it's going to take to connect to the web. You know, we could not be able to connect, or we could have a slow connection or whatever, but we don't know exactly, and so we can pass in the completion handler that's going to basically handle things for us, you know. And one of the interesting things that I was working on recently was escaping closures. And so if you have ever seen the at escaping keyword in closures, what are they? Well, basically, just about every completion handler, not all of them, but just about every completion handler that's used with some sort of asynchronous call, like a URL call, is going to be escaping because it has to come back to that. It has to escape the scope it's in just now. And so it's almost like if you've jumped over your closure and you went to the next line of code, like down here somewhere or in the next part, and it has to jump back to here, then it's probably going to be an escaping closure. So if we were writing this ourselves, we would have to specify that, I think. But basically, we don't have to worry about that just now so much. Now, just one thing. There's going to be zero error handling here, okay? I'm just going to write this rather than actually worry about all the ins and outs that... What's this saying? Okay. Yeah, I'm basically just going to unwrap this. Sorry. There's no need to worry about that. So what we want to do, and I'm going to do this backwards here, what we want to do is we want to check if we've got data. So once we've connected to our API, I'm just going to see if anyone's saying anything on YouTube. No, no one says anything. Oh, that's cool. Once we connect to our API, we then will either get data if what we've done is correct, if we're going to the right place. We'll get some sort of response, which could be a success, failure, error, a not found, lots of different responses, so we can check that. And we may or may not get some sort of error, right? Whenever you're working with stuff like this, you usually have to enclose it in a sort of protective casing, right? Or the Apple crash. It's not like in JavaScript where you can just write something in the web browser, it might cope. This app would just full on crash, and Swift is really good at telling you you should really wrap this up. So we'll come back to that in a minute, but let's just check if we have some data equals data. Else we're going to return. We'll just return the rating that we put in, right? So this is going to say, did I have data? No. Then just give me. Oh, sorry, this is return. We'll just return. Okay. Return. It'll escape this. If we have data, good. If not, then just leave the scope. All right. So let's do the old parsing here. This used to confuse me, but basically we're going to get some sort of JSON down from our web service, right? This is like, if you're doing iOS development, this is your bread and butter. You do this all the time. So JSON equals try JSON serialization dot data with JSON. Be careful with this one. JSON object with input stream. That's weird. I don't know what that is. Okay. Some data. Here's our data options. Right. Okay. So if you've not worked with the options for JSON serialization, basically, if you want some of the things to be mutable, the actual top level stuff, you would use this mutable containers, which means that I think you can change it once you've got the data. But basically, I always use mutable containers. It works. Okay, that's fine. We want it as though a dictionary, which is coming down. I'll come back and explain this in a second. Else return. All right. Now you're going to see an error here because it's going to be like, what? What's this saying? Why are you complaining? Yeah, it's complaining because it's saying, hey, this code you've put in can throw an error, and I'm not ready to handle that, right? So what we need to do is just wrap this up. Okay, whenever we use this try, it can break. We have to handle that. So catch let error. We'll just just print the error out. That's useful because the user won't even see it. But at least that won't immediately crash. Okay, so it's complaining we haven't actually used this. Cool. Excellent. Excellent. Right, so if you're with me still, just checking that live stream every now and again. Yes. So if you're with me still, we are connecting to a URL and we're getting some sort of response. Usually you'd check that. A lot of people use Alamofire and things because it handles so much of this for you. We're just going to use our own custom method for connecting. We get some data back and then it says make sure I've got data. If I've got data, then deserialize the JSON into some sort of immutable. That's going to annoy me, that mutable containers. It's a top, I'm sure it's top level. Oh, I've not turned that on yet in this. Oh no. I should jump straight to it. It doesn't say. I can't remember. I'll come back to that. Check mutable containers. I actually don't. There's a lot of things that I still don't know. I like to make notes of them as I'm going when I'm practicing because then I really get down to it, you know. Cool. Else return. Okay, cool. And we've got it as a dictionary. So a dictionary would just be like an object, and then it would be like name, and it would be maybe a string like code disciple, right? And the next one could be like age, and it could be 21. I don't know. So it could be any object. It's ready to handle strings as the key, which is what we'll always get in this case. And then we can get the ints or strings back. Easy peasy. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Return. Okay, so basically in here we would get some sort of response. So maybe it would go up there and wait for. It would post the data. Users would get a notification and send the top 5 ratings would come back down to user as an average. So all that stuff could happen there. Blah 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 blah. Data task, and then we would do dot resume, right? So we need to do this to make sure it connects. Cool. Error in. Cool. And so what we would do is we would get this average. So let's say it's average rating. The response would come down, and let's say it was like 3. So we'll just mimic this like as if it was a unit test here. So let result equals 3. So we will go here. We'll say variable result. Type int. We might get it or not. We'll just say just say result equals 3. I got a 3. A lot lower than I was expecting. No, I'm joking, right? So return 3, right? What's this complaining about? Okay, well, it's complaining that we've not used it. I understand. That's fine. It's going to pretend this. So result equals 3, and then we would connect, and then we would return result. Okay. I wonder if it's going to ask me to do self in here. Okay, guard let result equals result. Oh no. If let result equals result. Oh, that's not good. That's different language. I'm in the wrong brackets. Return result. We have this thing where injective C, but the bracket should always go in the next thing. Cool. Else return if let return result or return the one that was passed in. So rating. So if the community responded, return the updated one, else return the normal rating, which is what we want because it's higher than 3, right? So awesome. Let's just check that. That fan is seriously loud on my computer. Wow. Okay. Right. Oh, I check out my desktop by the way really quickly. Check out this background. Look at that. Woo. Nice. Official. So official. I'm getting distracted. Okay, cool. So that's us. We've got this here, right? So where am I going with this? Basically, the kind of key of all this is that we're now going to plug this in here. We're going to go connect. I've misspelt connect. English is my first language. We'll do you. What did I call it? I can't remember what I called it. API URL. If you don't know what an API is, just give me a second. Right. So here we go. Let us rate. I know. We'll just pass this in. Let's just quickly talk about APIs. APIs. They stand for Application Programming Interface, and basically, an API is something that allows you to communicate with something else. So, whenever you play an online game, and every time your character moves, let's say it's a shooter like Overwatch or something, it would go and send off something to the Overwatch API with a command saying user moved such and such. It would handle that and say, yeah, I understand this, they've moved this much. They would go and do their thing, and it would send out all of the other users your new location because you've moved, which is really important in a shooter game. And then that would send out to everyone else. So your Overwatch communicated with the server, which communicated with everyone else's Overwatch. And although that sounds complicated, the best way I can explain an API is that every day when you're talking to other people, you use the communication API. So what do I mean by that? Well, we use our vocal cords and our facial expressions to communicate with someone else who's in front of you, whether it's in person or on a video screen or phone, whatever, and they're receiving your data where you say hello. They hear your voice, they see your face, they quickly assess you and say, oh, they look okay today. Or if you don't look okay, maybe they're concerned and they might say, oh, hello, how are you? And that's how it works. An API is two things communicating with each other. So if it's just talking, then what's the big deal? Well, in computers, things can break very, very quickly with programs if APIs aren't clear. You know, like maybe you compare it to a formal work environment where certain conversations aren't appropriate, or things that you can say might not be right in that specific environment. You might not call your boss "all right, man" at your work, but outside of work, maybe that same person, you could use a different way of speaking. Well, the stricter version is kind of how programs work. It's quite strict. So that's what all these strings at the end of the API are. This would be generated by our app and send it up. Okay. So cool. This is complaining because we haven't actually returned a number yet. Okay. So let's put T here. So we'll just return this. Cool. So hopefully you're still with me. So we've just got a function that goes online and returns the actual number. Okay, we might come back to the microtransaction thing we were talking about earlier as a bonus feature. This one. Cool. I'll just turn this autoplay. Yeah, I'll put this down here. Cool. So we have this closure. So a closure is something that we can pass in, like a function we can pass around. Closure to use. And this closure is using the function above, which is using the URL above it. So there's a few steps going on here. So we just have to break it down, okay? Quite straightforward-ish, right? And I've been thinking about functional programming, how I could actually explain it. It's kind of like you're cooking something. You have a microwave, you put it in, it does its thing, and it returns something else that you can then put in the oven, and then it finishes off the top, like the grill, it finishes off the top. So you heat the macaroni, then you grill the macaroni. It's almost like passing something in, and once that's finished, you pass that in. And the function that you're using, the microwave, you've built it. It does one thing. If you want to combine several of those, you can have the microwave that then combines with the oven, which then combines with the flamethrower at the end to finish off for an extra crispy bacon on top. I don't know. But that's kind of what it's like. And so you can see that the fun part is almost like many things plugging in. So that's kind of what it's like. So I actually tried to click the wrong screen there. Okay. So finally, right, let's do a function. What we call it? Let's do a function. Request user result. This is where we're going to send up a request, right? We're going to rate ourselves and say, hey, I'm a such and such. All right, we'll just call this closure for clarity here, right? And we'll put in, what do we call it? User attribute result, right? So user attribute result. Yes. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. And something I picked up actually from, what was his name? A guy at my work recommended a really good chap on Twitter, and he was talking about completion handlers. I'm just going to pull this up just now. It's really worth checking this guy out if I can find him. I can't remember his name. Let me see. I've got so much rubbish on here. I tried to get rid of most of the users, most of the people that aren't posting tech stuff, but I can't remember. I'm going to try and find them on here. Sundell. You should check out Swift by Sundell. Really good blogger. Doing some great Swift stuff. And I picked up one of his little things the other day and I was just relaxing. So basically, we're going to pass in this closure and then it's going to do this completion handler, right? Which is also going to be a user attribute result, okay? And we're going to return a user attribute result, so this is going to be fun. The problem is here is that these are going to have to be escaping, alright? This is what I was talking about earlier. I'm busy just now. Out. Can you close the door, please? Close it. Properly, please. That's my kids. That's a busy house. Okay, so this here is where all the fun happens. I'm going to actually explain this once I call it. Okay, so return. Let's call this submitted value in. Should call that. Go online and fetch the result. When you're done, do this. And let's do calculated result equals. Okay, we're going to call that closure on the submitted value. And then we're going to return calculated result. We'll just do this for now. Okay. Because we'll call completion in a minute. Okay. So basically, this is where the kind of functional side of things kick in. Just give me a second to check the channel. See if there's any questions or anything. Nope. That's cool. Must be quite quiet today. What else would you be doing on a Sunday afternoon apart from coding functional Swift? No idea. So basically, this request result, what the heck in pecking is going on here, as my friend used to say. Basically, let's look at this beautiful signature for this function here. Request result, go online, update result, then go online. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong screen. Request result, it's going to go online and do its thing, and then it's going to come back and it's going to return another function. So we're returning functions and we're passing things in, right? So let's just call this bad boy. Let's say let final user result equals request user result. We're going to pass in a closure here, so we'll pass in our terrible spacing. Go online and update result, and then we're going to we'll just do go online and update result just now again. Okay. So basically, we could have some sort of completion handler here, right? But I'm going to just change this to make it easier to understand. Um, let's just say we'll just call completion. Sorry, I did that after the return. Let's come back to this. We'll come back to this. Cool. So we'll have what could we have as a completion handler? Alert user, right? So let's do let alert user, and this is going to be a little function that's going to alert users, right? So it's going to just print new result has just came in. This is the best kind of notification. So descriptive. It's not the best. It's not the best. All right, but it'll do just now. I'm literally making this up. Right, cool. That's fine. So let's just talk about this a second. Right here, this is the bit that I really wanted to get to because I feel like I've came so far in the past 2 weeks in grasping functional Swift and functional programming. And when I first looked at it, I was like, "What?" I had no idea what was going on, and this is, I'm going to explain this here. So basically, user attribute result, this thing that we're trying to send in, it makes a lot more sense than me putting in int and returns int. I mean, what is that? You know, if I do, I mean, we could put that there. What this says is a function which is returning. This is a function that takes in an int and comes back as an int, but it's not very descriptive, and it doesn't really explain what's kind of happening. The word closure doesn't help, but it's more descriptive to have these kind of functional type aliases. It kind of makes more sense. It's a lot smaller as well, but it's going to take in this function. Okay, you want me to connect to the web? Cool. Give me the function that you want to call to connect to the web. Alright, we're going to use this go online and update result function, the online update result closure, right? And all you're really doing is describing that function. It doesn't really care what it actually is. It just needs a good description. And because of type safety here, yeah, we're taking in an int and we're returning an int. Okay, so we're passing that in there. This actually looks really, really descriptive now. Request user result, go online and update stuff, then alert user. I mean, that's really, really descriptive. And hopefully you're still with me getting here. But basically, that's much more readable than a lot of other code that I've worked with. And I'm literally just kind of winging this. It could be done better, of course, and it will be. It will be. Stay with me. But this makes sense. And when that moment finally happens, you're like, oh, right, okay, cool, that makes sense. Go online, update result, and then alert user, right? Which is, this alert user, it doesn't do anything just now. It just like prints out a statement, right? So they'll never see this, but it's alright. We can just imagine that works. The point is that we're chaining them together. You could actually chain these together. You could compose these functions, and you could borrow bits from one function, one bit from another, and start to chain them together, and you get this kind of composition. The fun part is when you actually use it, right? So we've built all this up, and it's kind of like a reverse pyramid where our actual call is actually quite small, but you kind of go back and go, okay, so this takes that closure and that closure, right? And when I've called it, I've passed in this closure and this closure, all right? And you find yourself stepping back to find the actual how it all works, and it's kind of like it's like all the complexity boils down to a really simple call. And I was thinking, like, that's actually a really good thing, because when you're looking through code, you see so much of the heavy stuff, but what you want to do is just quickly see what is going on. Like, just tell me the story of what's going on here. If you've got a bug that's come in or something, and you're looking at code you've not seen before, looking at some giant class isn't helpful. But if you have this kind of point where you can say, oh, request user result, go online, and then alert user, this isn't working properly, well, then I start stepping into what builds that together. Oh yeah, this here, this comment Swift by Sunday, what's it doing there? You know, and you can start to see where the problem is. And it's much better this way because you don't have to dive deep into everything. You can kind of go backwards. And this is why I think functional programming is kind of taken off. But the great part is, how do you call this? Because look over here, right? You can see, I don't know if I can zoom in. I don't know how to zoom in anymore. I don't know how to zoom in. But basically, it's return a function here. If you look closely, this is what we talked about way back at the top. A function that takes an int in as the argument and returns another integer. A whole number. Like this. That's exactly what we thought would happen when we said user attribute result, right? And if you just skip past all the fanciness, this is returning what? A function that takes an int and does something with it and returns an int. So what int are we talking about here? Where is the user attribute, right? Well, the user attribute is right here. Just going to move this right out. Right? It's returning this function here. This is returning a function. It's like a microwave. It's went and got built. It's returning the microwave saying, if you plug food into me, I'll cook it. Well, this function's saying, okay, I've built all this stuff up with all the little components. I will return you a brand new microwave function, and if you plug an int into me, I'll return another integer. And by doing that, I'll go off and do some magic on the internet. It's like a TV remote. You know, you get given the remote, you plug batteries into it and push a button and it works. You know, it's great, okay? So the submitted value is, it's waiting for the submitted value. It's not got one yet. So this is the fun part. This here that we're looking at, this return here, is waiting to go in. It's returned the function, but it's not being called. It's almost like it's waiting for it. So this submitted value, once we pass that in, it's going to go crazy, go off to the web and go and do its thing. It's going to call closure on it. And closure, when we put it in, is go online. Go online is like, right, cool, I've got an int, which is 7. I think I gave myself a 7, or was it a 5? It's going to go connect to the web with the API with desired result, user rating. It goes off to this function. And it's like, cool, connect to the web with the URL, with desired rating, goes off, gets a new rating, and returns 3, which is fine. So how do we call it? We pass it in at the end. So here we go. Let's pass in 5. New result just came in. So basically, this is what we're left with. We're left with a really descriptive function with a really descriptive type that goes in. Nice descriptive completion handler, thanks to Sundell, Mr. Sundell. And then at the very end, we have the actual parameter we're passing in. Now, if you've ever heard of the term currying, and that's not when you go out for an Indian curry, although those are very good. It's actually when you're passing things in at the end of a function. So if I have my function here, and at the end I'm passing in another parameter, and then another parameter, and then another parameter. That's currying. And it's calling the result of one function on another, which is passing the result to another, which is passing the result to another. So that's something you see a lot of in functional Swift, functional JavaScript, etc. But basically, this is what we're left with. And I think this is why functional Swift is exciting, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to be the best programmers that we can be, and basically a lot of code that you see is done the same way a lot of the time. But when you're trying to gain a new skill like this, you're actually kind of stepping your game up and finding a use for it. It's really important, and I can really see a use for this, you know, where the function I'm writing makes sense. It's less complicated for someone who comes and sees the code, because if something doesn't work, then they dive into it and they see small things chained together rather than a giant function that takes in an int, has 50 conditions. And, you know, we skip some of the conditions for the URL session, right? But we could break that down even further and further and further, and have more and more descriptive functions coming back, and things are less coupled. And coming back to the kind of generic thing, if we have more generic stuff that's not just an int, perhaps we could pass in a generic type that's not int, It could handle all sorts of things. This function would actually be quite good for something else. It could be like a word rating. It could be anything, you know. But basically, this is what we're left with functional Swift. And I'm kind of up to chapter 3 in the book now, which is Functional Swift by Objective-C.io. I feel a lot more comfortable with it. So I'll just step you through it one more time again if you're confused by this. But basically, we're saying I'm rating myself as 5. So maybe when the user taps OK button or submit button with value of 5 for self rating. Pass in we would pass this in here, and then it would say, okay, this function's built up. This is the microwave. And it just plugs 5 into it. This returned as a function, which was, I'm just going to fix that. This one. This is our return, which is the kind of weird part to get used to returning a function. This function says, cool, I've got a string. The calculated result is going to get this closure function, which expects, an int, which expects an int and will return an int, calls on it the submitted value, and then calls the completion handler and returns it. What does it call? What was closure we passed in? Go online and update result. Here's the closure. It expects the int. This is still 5 just now. It's went into it. I should really indent that, sorry. And, no, I shouldn't. It says, right, cool, connect to the web with the 5. Cool, let's jump to connect to the web. Connect to the web, here we go. Here's where all the meat, it comes down to the metal here, right? The meat, the metal, whatever. Connect to the web with URL with desired rating 5. Goes off to the web. Prepares to return a result. Data task, URL session with shared session data task with URL. So this is the one that's asynchronous. So we have a do, try, and a completion handler. We've missed a lot of implementation out here, but I would put another function in this, and I would do a completion handler here, and then we would return it. Returns it. So we don't actually have a result here. That's why it's just returning the number we passed in, which was 5. But if we return, let's just say we returned let's say we return 3 here for fun, because it will be 3 when it comes down. It would be 3 here. So the community has rated my iOS date profile as a 3 out of 10. But you know, 3 is close to pi, you know, so maybe that's a geeky thing, I don't know. But hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you can see where this is going. Hopefully you can get some value from it. And yeah, I mean, if I'm learning new things, the best way to do it is to try and make it interesting as possible. Your brain just doesn't remember things that are useless to it. If you can find a way of making it funny, especially stuff that you find funny that fits your humour, it keeps it interesting, then you'll memorise things way quicker. And we don't have a lot of time when we're programmers. We have a lot of free time. And so something that can make it quicker is surely worth doing. And this is just something that I do. It's not even a big deal. It's just something that I use for everything. When I'm trying to memorise new stuff, I'll just come up with funny stories and ways of memorising stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you got some value from it. Hopefully you can take it away. I'm going to post this code up to GitHub. Bitbucket, and you can have a look at it, run it a playground, mess with it if you want, or even better, just practice your own thing, because deliberate, focused practice is what it's about. And if you can just keep practicing this stuff, this is how you're going to get fluent at it. It takes a lot longer to get fluent in something than people expect, and it's taken me 2 weeks just to kind of understand some of the basics of functional programming, but that's okay, because it's been 2 weeks well spent, and I'm going to use this stuff, especially with like the closures and things, even the syntax and stuff. At first I was like a bit weird, and to be fair, Objective-C blocks are a bit weird as well, but if you find something you need to work on, for example, like today, those mutable containers and the mutable leaves for JSON, I've read it before, but I just always use the one, so why would I memorize it? I'll need to come up with some funny way of memorizing it, and I'll post it. Use memory devices as much as possible. Make it your life easier. So hopefully you can use that. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Have a great week. I will be online next Monday, a week tomorrow, at 8 p.m. GMT, and I am going to be blogging, heavy blogging this week. I have to write an article for Treehouse, for iOS stuff. If you have any ideas about that, then let me know. And I have to do that as well. And yeah, I'm absolutely loving it. So have a great week and keep on coding. And thanks so much for tuning in. See you later.